Have you ever felt like you're just one step away from unlocking an extraordinary life? Like there's a secret door to success, but all you need is that key? Well, what if that key isn't something that you find, but rather something that you create yourself? Today, I'm revealing what I believe to be that key. The 5 mindset shifts that have helped transform my life. The power shift, the learning shift, the perspective shift, the environmental shift, and the clarity shift. These 5 mindset shifts aren't just changes. Instead, they're principles that you can use to help transform your life from where it is today to being closer to that ideal dream life that you've always wanted. Welcome back to Peak Life, where we design, build, and live our own peak lives. So if you're ready, let's dive into detail on each of these mindset shifts. The first mindset shift is taking full responsibility. I learned about this in the book Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, the former US Navy SEAL. In this book, he taught about the power about taking full responsibility, or as he calls it, extreme ownership for everything in your life. When I was younger and not quite as far on my personal development journey, I used to blame others and the environment for my lack of progress. This would happen, for example, in engineering school, where I blamed the teachers for my workload and feel like it was their responsibility to make sure I was managing and able to keep up. But here's the truth. Blaming external factors just makes us passive participants in our own lives. But in comparison, it's much more empowering to shift to take full responsibility. As Jim Rohn said, you must take personal responsibility. You cannot change the circumstances, the seasons, or the wind, but you can change yourself. This means that acknowledging our decisions, our reactions, and our next steps are ours to own. To implement the power shift of taking full responsibility, start by catching yourself when you make excuses. And then ask, what part did I play in this? How is this my fault? And what action could have I taken instead? This mindset turns obstacles into opportunities for growth. Next up, we have the learning shift of embracing failure. Thomas Edison said, "I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that did not work." The fear of failing can paralyze us. And when we become too paralyzed to act, we settle and we stagnate. But when we can see failure as a stepping stone towards success, we transform failure from a blockade to a ladder. This shift of perspective on failure was pivotal for me. And throughout my life, I began to see each setback as a stepping stone forward instead of a roadblock that used to crush my hopes. A few years ago, I got really into knife making. And after admiring the beautiful Kramers and Miyabi knives, I thought that I could make one just as good. Well, I was wrong. Each knife would take about 20 to 25, maybe 30 hours to make, and a lot of that time being hunched over a grinder. So I put in all this time hoping for a beautiful end product, but I didn't understand the necessary stepping stones and what was required at each step. So every time that I made a knife, I would get some new failure. Maybe the blade would turn out curved. Maybe I would grind through and ruin the heat treatment. Or maybe I didn't flatten the knife scales, the handle, enough and there'd be a gap when I tried to glue it onto the blade. But each knife got a little better. I learned from every failure. And on the next knife, I wouldn't necessarily make that same failure. Yeah, I would probably screw something else up. But by the time I did about 17, 18 knives, I was finally starting to get something that I was proud of. This knife making process taught me that failure is not the opposite of success. Instead, it is a critical part on the success journey. To get better at this throughout our life, we can start reframing our failures. We can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? Why did this particular part go wrong? And we need to embrace this growth mindset, understanding that mastery comes from endless attempts of trial and error. Next up, we have the perspective shift in practicing gratitude. Shifting to a gratitude mindset opens our eyes to the amount of abundance we have in our life. This doesn't mean ignoring your problems. Instead, it means appreciating what you do have and cultivating a positive mindset. Did you know that gratitude can actually rewire our brain for positivity and abundance? Well, it's true. Gratitude turns what we have into enough, as Aesop beautifully put. And the good thing is that implementing gratitude into your life is super simple. It can be as easy as listing out 3 things that you're grateful for, either in the morning or before you go to bed. I've now been using the Gratitude 365 app for over 50 days straight, and I've noticed a distinct shift in how I feel each day. My days are definitely happier, and I feel like I have more abundance, and that what I have in life, it is closer to being enough. You can check out this video up here where I compare the Gratitude 365 app to the 5-minute journal. The 4th mindset is about your environment. As Jin Rohn famously said, you are the average of the 5 people you spend most of your time with. And I've now heard this over and over again. It seems like every single personal development book that I read, they talk about how important it is to make sure that your peer group, that your circle is as great as possible and is aligned to where you want to go. So a couple years ago, I really took this to heart and started curating my circle with more thought and care. Surrounding myself with positive and uplifting people has changed my perspective on myself and what I believe is possible and what my potential actually is. In the past, I would spend time with some people and feel completely drained with no fulfillment after we would hang out. So now I'm trying to spend more time with people who uplift me, who inspire me, who I want to become more like. And this might be something as simple as going for a run with someone who's faster than me, or doing a workout with someone who squats more, or more complex by trying to surround myself with more people at work who I can learn from and who inspire me to be better. So the way that you can implement this into your own life is to be intentional with the company that you keep and to set boundaries with energy vampires and people that drain you. And lastly, we have the clarity shift of visualizing success. Buddha states, the mind is everything. What you think, you will become. And I completely agree. True visualization is a tool for priming your brain to recognize and seize opportunities that align with your goals and where you want to go. It's about creating a clear and compelling picture of what you want your life to look like. And doing this will motivate you to take the necessary steps and actions to become a little closer to that every single day. For me, visualization is not about the law of attraction or about mantras repeated in the mirror every morning. Instead, it's about defining what you actually want and what systems and inputs are necessary for getting you there. By the way, James Clear teaches this in much more detail in his great book, Atomic Habits, which I'll leave a link to down below. I found, at least for myself, to achieve any amount of success in your life, you must first define what that success looks like for you. Otherwise, you don't know what opportunities to say yes to or no to. The system I've been using for a few years now is exactly like what you do in a business setting. Each year, over the Christmas break, I try to come up with my 10-year target. This is a big, general, overarching idea of what my dream life would look like 10 years from now. What my ideal average day would be. What sort of things I would have, where in the world I'll be living, and what are a few things that I might achieve, and what will the family look like. Next, I have my 3-year target. Being a little closer, this has some real tangible outcomes. What my work is, what sort of achievements I've had, and what I'm working towards, what things are important to me, and what my ideal daily week looks like. Next, I'll break it down to my 1-year plan of what milestones I have to have achieved to be able to hit my 3 and 10-year plan. And then finally, I take that 1-year plan and break it down into quarters, or even just look at what I need to be working on every week or every day to have the right inputs and systems that will be required to eventually hit the 1, 3, and 10-year targets. And now to wrap up, these shifts aren't overnight magic. They're seeds. Plant them, nurture them, and watch as your life begins to transform in ways you couldn't even believe. And as we wrap up, remember that these mindset shifts aren't just concepts. They're actionable strategies that you can implement into your life right now and start seeing benefits. So I encourage you, take these shifts today. Take that step and watch as your life starts to transform. But before you go, I'll leave a link to a video up here where I take on my own version of the 75 Hard Challenge. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next one.